All right, so here's a problem similar to 3.1.21 on your homework. And it says find the slope of the curve. And then it gives you a curve, y equals 1 over x plus 3 at the point x equals 6. Okay, so what you should have learned by now is that the slope of the curve is the same as the derivative of the curve at that point, right? So the derivative is really just the slope at each point put together into a function. So when it says find the slope of the curve at this point, it really means find the derivative and evaluate it at x equals 6. So let's find the derivative. Well, the sort of first way that we've learned to find a derivative is the limit definition of derivative, which says the limit as h goes to 0. And then I plug in x plus h. So I get 1 over x plus h plus 3 minus, and then I just plug in the function by itself. So 1 over x plus 3, and then I divide that whole thing by h. All right, so let's try and solve out what this really is. Well, it's the limit as h goes to 0. So if I get a common denominator, so I'm multiplying the opposite denominators over to the opposite side, so I get x plus 3 over on the left minus x plus h plus 3 over on the right, and then divided by x plus 3 times x plus h plus 3, and then all divided by h. All right, so simplifying what this looks like, the limit as h goes to 0. So what do I have on top? Well, I get this x plus 3 is going to cancel with a negative x and a negative 3, right? Because I'm going to be distributing this minus sign, right? So this will cancel here with this x and this 3. But then on top, I'm just left with a negative h. And then on the bottom, what do I have? I have h times x plus 3 times x plus h plus 3. And now these h's will cancel, right? So that cancels with that. And then, so I just have really negative 1 on top, right? Negative 1. And then on the bottom, I can take this limit as h goes to 0. So what do I have? I have negative 1 divided by x plus 3 times x plus 3, right? Because this h is going to 0. So I have negative 1 over x plus 3 squared. So that is my derivative. That's my derivative function. So finding the slope at x equals 6, I just need to plug in 6 into this derivative function, right? So I just evaluate this at x equals 6 and check what that looks like. Well, it's negative 1 divided by, I plug in 6, so 6 plus 3 squared. That's negative 1 over 9 squared, which is 81. So that is the slope of my curve, y equals 1 over x plus 3 at x equals 6.